Okay, I believe that we can start. So, hello everyone. Welcome to our Thursday lecture. My name is Yana Ovcharenko and I am an outreach coordinator here at Education USA Ukraine. Sorry, some technical problems. Let me just kindly remind you that Education USA is your official source on US higher education. So if you want to start your journey in the United States, educational journey, we will be happy to help you. So please reach out to us. And I know that sometimes studying in the United States might seem kind of like a distant dream, something unreal. But today we have our guest speaker who is going to prove that it absolutely can become a reality. So I'm happy to introduce Tetiana Polyakova, Ukrainian who has a chance to study in the United States. And today Tanya is going to share her experience, her story, and share some valuable insights and advice for you guys. So be ready to insightful presentation, take some notes, and do not hesitate to ask your questions in our chat box in YouTube. I believe that Tanya would be happy to answer all your questions. Okay, so Tanya, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Yana. Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited to share my experience today and hopefully be able to help some of you on your journey of both picking an educational institution as well as getting there and making the most of it. So hopefully everyone can see my screen. Okay, great. I just have to present again. Great. Okay. So, before I started to talk all about my American experience, I wanted to share who I am and what I do now. So I'm originally from Zhytomyr, but as Yana mentioned, I did my undergrad in the United States, then I am in biology, then I did my master's degree in Sweden in biomedicine, and currently I'm pursuing a PhD in neuroscience at the University of British Columbia in Canada, where I research the role of cholesterol in Alzheimer's disease. So I already put my contact information there, but of course, please ask questions in the chat. But if you want to reach out later as well, you're more than welcome to. And then I have the same information on the last slide as well, in case you don't have time to write it down now. Okay. So, what I'm going to talk about today, first, I will give you my tips on picking the right match. You are at the right place if you want to find or if you want to enter an American college or university. So I'm not going to give you the nitty-gritty of how to get admitted because also I did that like 10 years ago, which is crazy. So I'm sure the procedure now has changed a lot, but I will give you my best pieces of advice for kind of picking the right educational institution for you. And then the second part of this talk is what was my experience like in a very small liberal arts college in Southern Virginia, and how to make the most out of your educational experience in the United States. And then later I will tell you how the skills and the knowledge that I gained outside the classroom at Randolph College and inside the classroom shaped my journey so far. Okay, so I will start with a little preface that I was in the United States as a Future Leader Exchange Program student, my last year of high school. So I understand that some of the opportunities that I had and some of the research that I had a chance to do, I did in the United States, which is different if you're elsewhere. However, there's also been done a lot of progress in terms of virtual tours after the COVID and just how much more access we have online. So I'm sure all of that could be remedied and you probably have even better access to information at the moment. So there's almost 4,000 degree granting post-secondary institutions in the United States, which is crazy. So you have to take these 4,000 or almost 4,000 institutions and pick which one is the best one for you. And so my first piece of advice would be to sign up for a virtual college fair and explore virtual tours if possible. So I know when I was with Education USA, when I was looking for PhD programs, I know they offered a lot of virtual tours and advertised them, and I've attended some of those, and those are really helpful. And then I remember, of course, this is the first ever picture of me taking on my campus. And again, I was in the United States and I had a chance to go visit. But please take the opportunity to attend the virtual tours after COVID. That has been, I mean, it was available even before that, but I think after COVID it's become so much more commonly accessible, and the quality of these tours is also amazing. So take the opportunity to see what facilities the university offers and how it looks and so on. If you have a chance to speak to someone that is a student there, that's even better. Sometimes I know colleges will provide those opportunities to prospective students. So again, if you have that, make sure you use that and you ask the right questions as well. So do your research beforehand, make a list of questions that you would want to, explore, and then make sure that you ask those questions. Okay, so my tip number 2 is to do your research and explore the metrics that matter to you. That list might look very different to you than it looks to a different person. I know when I was looking at my PhD programs, I made the whole Excel spreadsheet so I could kind of have the metrics that I wanted to look at all in one place, and then I had all of like a big picture of everything. Also, I'm telling you this from my experience of being on my 3rd degree right now, right? So I picked 3 different programs, and I wish that some of those things I knew when I was looking for my undergrad institution. I definitely got lucky, but I think it could have gone a completely different way. So do recommend you looking at least at the following. So the program rankings and opportunities. Not only the ranking of the institution that you're looking at, but also the specific program that you're interested in. And I know you might not be sure about what exactly you want to study in the undergrad, but maybe make a list of like top 3 programs that you're potentially interested in, and then see if the college that you're looking at, do they even offer these majors? Do they have the kind of opportunities that you have, which might be like research programs if you're interested in research or exploring that? Or do they have internships? If so, how easy it is to get an internship? Take into account that you're an international student, so whatever opportunities they have, are they open to international students? And look at their faculty. Something that was really, really important to me when I was looking for my college was student to faculty ratio. I didn't want to go to an institution where I'm going to sit in a lecture with 100, 200 other students. And you might be perfectly fine with it, but personally for me, that was a deal breaker. So I didn't look into big universities, and I didn't apply to any big universities because I wanted to go to a smaller school where I could easily talk to a professor, and I wouldn't be talking to a teaching assistant all the time, for example. So another things that consider are retention rate. So there's a graduation rate and retention rate. Retention rate is how many students stay after their first year, and then graduation rate is how many what percentage of students graduate from the number that started. So it's good to know what kind of students or not what kind of opportunities and support services does the college provide to the students, so then they can stay after the first year, graduate, and so on. If you are planning to study abroad, I know that's really important to some. Make sure that your college has those programs, and again, they're easily accessible to international students. Okay. So again, those are some ideas and some of the things that I've considered, but your list might look completely different. But I would at least recommend looking at the program rankings. So not just the university overall ranking, but how is your program? Because I remember there's one college that I looked at that had amazing ranking, but it was mostly, once you look closer, for like social sciences, and arts, which is not what I wanted to study. I knew I wanted to do science, so that wasn't an option for me anymore. So just a bit of caution there. Okay, and I think my last tip when it comes to choosing a place is location does matter, and that is because in the US, and I will talk about it later a bit more as well, the college campus, university campus, it's very self-sufficient, very independent. So you are drawn to look at the facilities around you, which is amazing, and you definitely should. But it often happens that you kind of have everything that you need available on campus, and you don't ever need to leave. But I think that if you're someone who really enjoys big cities and you want the hustle and bustle, and then maybe the program rankings and so on, and all of that comes first. But I do recommend that you consider other things, such as if that amazing college is in a small town, or in the middle of nowhere, which does happen in the United States, because we in Ukraine, I think, used to universities being in big cities. Maybe that one is not the best option for you. So again, look into the location as well. My college, Randolph College in Southern Virginia, was located in Lynchburg, which was a really picturesque, kind of a small city with a small town feel. So you knew a lot of people, and we had like one downtown, right, with like a few shops. So again, it was really small, and it was really lovely. But take into account other things as well, such as you know, the climate, the opportunities that are available in the city, and so on. Whatever is important to you. Again, that's very individual. Okay, so this is my only piece of advice for application process. Again, because I think the procedure probably changed. I don't even remember what system I applied with and so on. But one of the things that I think is the biggest difference between a lot of European universities, including Ukraine, and American institutions is that in Europe, often the process is very quantitative. So they look at your test scores, they look at your grades, you know, standardized tests usually. And nobody cares about people care about your extracurricular activities a lot less than the grades and the test scores and so on. Nobody not nobody, but in most cases, people are not gonna have a chance to hear your story. In the United States, where you have essays to write, often there are more unique questions in the application process, depending on the university and college. You get a chance to tell your unique stories. So make sure you do that. Focus on what makes you stand out. Whether it's your experiences, challenges, or passions, and make sure that your essays and application reflect your authentic voice. So be honest, and do talk about what made you today, like what made who you are today, and also what are you interested in doing in the future, like what drives you in life. And I think, again, that's a huge thing that I wish I knew when I was applying. I think I should have highlighted that more. And I recommend that you do that in your application, however you see that fit for you. Okay, so now for the during part. I'm just going to have a sip of water. So as I mentioned, the name of my undergrad institution was Randolph College. It was a liberal arts college, which means that you pick a major up to the second year of your studies, but you have to take classes in other disciplines. So I was studying biology, but I still had to take like a sociology class and a psychology class and an arts class and a history class and so on. It's located in Lynchburg, Virginia, as I mentioned, and this is the crazy part, which you're probably going to be surprised by. Usually people are when I tell them that. So at the time where I was there, the enrollment was also about the same as it is right now, so about 800 students. So that's all. The whole college hit 800 students. The nice part about it is that almost all of us lived on campus. So those 800 people, they didn't commute. They were with you all the time. So it seemed like a lot more. But my campus was again tiny compared to most other schools. So the Randolph College offers 40 majors and 48 minors. So that's a pretty good list for a small college like that. And here's some of my favorite parts of my college experience. 95% of full-time faculty hold the highest possible degrees in their fields, which means that I think actually in my case, all of the professors that I had a PhD. They had research experience. They're really good at teaching because nobody goes to these small schools if they want to do research, right? Because there's less research opportunities available, although I still think that there are plenty of for students especially. But in terms of faculty, like if you want to do cutting edge research, you're going to go to a really large institution with a lot of different facilities. But people who go to teach at these smaller schools doesn't mean that it has to be 800, even if it's a few thousand. They're usually really passionate about teaching, which means that they really care about students, which you don't always get at a bigger school. The average class size is 13, and that's true. I had classes that were like, I think my biggest class was 45 people throughout my whole 4 years at Randolph College. And then student faculty ratio is 8-to-1, which means that for each faculty member employed by the college, there was 8 students. That's an amazing student to faculty ratio, which means that again, you can talk to your professors easily. You can schedule meetings with them. You can ask questions. And I really appreciated that part throughout the whole 4 years. And I didn't understand how unique it was till later in my career. I did my other degrees at much larger institutions. Okay, so college campus, we I think we are like one of the prettiest campuses in Virginia, because it's all red brick and amazing facilities. Again, it's small, but you can walk from like the east side to the west side, basically, I think in 15-20 minutes. I think I was a fast walker, so 15 was like super fast, so 20 minutes. But that's still a very short walk. And at the same time, like we were small, but we had everything we needed. So when it was busy or during exam season or really active coursework, a lot of assignments, I didn't leave campus at all, because we had resident dorms where we obviously lived. We had all the lecture halls in the same place. All the sports facilities, if you did any of the sports team, were also on the same campus. We had gym there for people that wanted to exercise. We had our dining hall where we would get our breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And of course, there was a cafe, there was a small store where you could buy snacks. We had a library, we had a health center that had also counseling services. So again, if you wanted to, you could just stay on campus for 4 years. I think that would have been really a little bit depressing by the end of it, for sure, because you need to explore. But it's just, it shows you how self-sufficient campuses in the United States are, and how usually they're very, it depends on the school. Larger schools obviously have multiple campuses, but I think with smaller school, that's the case. And also, that's something to consider. Like, do you want to go to a school that's more like this, where whole campus, or they have multiple sides, but kind of a site is all in one place, surrounded by, we had this beautiful red brick wall? Or do you want to go to a campus that's in the middle of the city, where, you can't tell if it's campus or if it's just a building? Maybe that's more of your vibe. So that's something to think about. Okay. So, Another thing that I absolutely loved about my education is that critical thinking was at the center of education. So my institution highlighted three aspects, but I think the critical thinking part is very standards for a lot of or most American schools. But in addition to critical thinking, for us, it was problem solving and writing skills. So everyone who graduated from Randolph College should have been a critical thinker, should have been really good at solving problems or knowing how to approach that, and an amazing writer. So that means that a lot of our classes were heavy on the written assignments. And that education is not about, just memorizing the material and being able to tell the professor or, a test paper word for word what you learned, but it's also once you know the material, right? Memorizing is still unfortunately part of it, especially if you're doing any of the STEM majors. But once you learn the materials, are you also able to think critically and apply it to real world problems? And I think that's very useful for whatever future job you're going to hold, if you decide to go to grad school, also how you talk about things and how you communicate problems and how you approach them. That is very valuable. Okay. Another thing that I wanted to highlight, and I might be a little bit biased because I am a researcher, right? I'm a neuroscientist. But one thing that I remember is all the research experience. So 800 is so like that's a very small college, right? And you might be wondering what opportunities are available there. And again, you might not be looking at a college that's 800 students, but maybe a few thousand. And I actually had a very impressive research opportunities. And it's not even looking now from the place where I am, where I get emails from prospective students. Sometimes they want to join my lab and, work with my professor. I think it can be a lot harder actually in a larger institution to access those opportunities because the competition is so high. But in my small college, I remember might have not been my first biology lecture, but it was one of the first biology lectures where our professor shared her research with us, and she was like, "Oh, if you're interested in doing research, let me know. Like, we'll have a chat." And I remember chatting with her right after the lecture, and then I did a summer research program after my first year, which was something that my college offered. Again, something that to look into, where you get a stipend, you get to stay in college for a few weeks during the summer and work on a research project with a professor. And then this was me actually presenting at a college at a conference. I think it was my second year, and it was in Massachusetts with a poster. And then I did independent projects throughout, which meant that I would get a credit for it on my transcript, and then I could continue to work on that research project. And then finally, um, one of the most rewarding experiences that I had was my honors thesis. So my GPA qualified me to do an honors degree, which depends on the institution what that actually means. But often it's a longer project. So in our institution, biology majors had a semester to write a literature review. I had a whole year to actually do my own research project and write a thesis or a small honors thesis after this, which is what I did. So I worked independently under the supervision of two amazing professors to be able to design my own project, to do all the experiments, analyze the data, and write up progress. Yeah, so again, that's unique to my institution. Maybe that part, how the honor thesis works, but look into what the schools that you're interested in have to offer in terms of that. I know that research opportunities are definitely something that's available in most American schools. Okay. So now To be a well-rounded individual, it's good to not only care about your courses and your grades, also to take on extracurricular activities that you're interested in. So in American schools, you have something that's called fair. I don't remember what kind of fair it is, but basically it's a fair of all. I think it was called like a students' activities fair or activities fair. But it was a day that we had as well, it was open for everyone, but it mostly obviously targeted towards first years or freshmen. When you come in, usually like the first week of your education or during orientation week, where all the student organizations, they have their little tables and they can tell you what they do. And I recommend that you go to that and you highlight at least 2 or 3 student organizations that you're interested in, that you like, and then check them out. So go to their meetings, see what they do, go to their events, and so on. And I did quite a few during my time at Randolph. Our school was very heavy on traditions and very like vivid and active in that aspect. So we did a lot of like, I was a part of ADAS, which promoted school spirit, for that we have like even and odd classes, a little bit complicated to explain, but we had this rivalry, which was really friendly. It was more about like the event. So we would like sing songs to each other. It was like a singing battle, and we had to memorize all the songs, and then we get to dress up in these stripy shirts and wear like our necklaces, and it was just fun, honestly. And it might not be completely might not be your thing, right? But it was my thing. And then we had like pumpkin parades as a tradition, and you know, I got to like as a I think this here I was the first year. As a first year, I got to maybe a sophomore. I got to have like a senior, so it's the person that skipped over a year, I guess, 2 years older than you. And then, you know, you like make each other gifts, and it was just wholesome for me. And then in addition to that, I also did one organization that did like community service. So we got to volunteer at a community and did that my first year, and that was really fun. And I think the biggest highlight for me in terms of extracurricular activities was the student government. So year 1 to 3, I was class president. So I got to do, you know, work with the student government to represent my class, whatever issues we had. Also put events or help with organization of the events. There's a completely different organization that did that in our college, but kind of help with events and do fundraising for eventually some of the bigger events that we wanted to put our senior year. And then my last year, I actually became student government president. So that meant that I was leading the whole council, and we represented the whole student body, and that was amazing. And in addition to just being a really great experience in terms of being the voice for the whole student body, it also gave me so many skills because I learned how to communicate effectively. I learned how to advocate. That's so important in today's world. And I learned how to deal with budgets and how to kind of manage that. So again, look into what you're interested in. That's number one. I have to like what you do, because otherwise, what's the point of doing it? And also the second thing is, what kind of skills can it potentially give you? So not everything should, I mean, obviously you should also just do things for fun. Not everything should be a skill learning experience. But in terms of maybe something that would require a bit more of your time, maybe if you're considering student government or tutoring, whatsoever, maybe also consider what skills it gives you before committing. But also do things for fun. Okay. So one more thing that I wanted to go through was part-time jobs. So in addition to being a nice extra income, right? Because you obviously make money through doing part jobs. Another thing that it is a lot of skill building and experiences. So what I wanted to highlight here is there's a lot of jobs on campuses, and of course there are restrictions for international students. So usually, I don't know, you have to check how it works now, but when I was a student there, you could only work on campus. So the only jobs that were available to you were on campus, and in our institution we had a 20-hour limit. So no student could work beyond 20, the student visa had a 20-hour limit, but in our college we actually had a 10-hour limit. So you could only work 10 hours a week. I think I went around that a little bit a few times, and I ended up working like 12, 15 hours on average for some of the years. But because we're a small college, we didn't have that many student jobs available. They kind of wanted to limit the hours so more students can participate. But a lot of jobs that I started an admission caller, which is a job that I would never want to be again. But basically, you were cold calling students and be like, "Hey, do you want to come to our college?" Which I think was fun for 2 days. And then I was like, that's definitely not something that I want to do. But a resident advisor, which is a person responsible for the floor in a residence dorm, I loved that job. I got to do rounds and put up social events for my floor, and so on. I worked as a tutor for like 3 years out of 4 years, like after my first year, and as a supervisor for the tutoring program for 1 year, and that is teaching experience. Then when you apply to grad school or whatever job you want to pursue, you can talk about that, right? You trained people or you taught people. That's a valuable skill. Same was like a teaching assistant or a lab tech assistant. So see what jobs are available, and yes, they are really nice in terms of an extra income, but also think about what are you most interested in and what kind of things you want to try, because it also can help you figure out what kind of career you are interested in. Like I loved I was good at like tutoring and teach and being a teaching assistant, but I realized that I don't like it as much as I thought I would. So maybe like a teaching career is not a career for me. Yeah. Okay. So now to my graduation. So I got to be very lucky because my family from Ukraine came to my graduation, and also my host family from Flex came to my graduation as well. So I got two families there, and overall my college experience made me a well-rounded scholar with strong critical thinking and writing skills. A lot of experience that maybe students in a very, very big schools would be hard for them to get, like so much research experience and so on. And then after my graduation, I did a master in biomedicine, and because I had a very strong coursework, strong extracurricular, a lot of research experience, and most importantly, I was taught during my undergrad how to talk about them. So how do you make sure that you communicate all the things that you learn and all the skills that you have? I got a tuition scholarship to one of the best medical universities in the world to pursue a master's in biomedicine, which is a research-based master's, but it's called Karolinska Institute in Sweden. And again, that was possible because of just how I think a lot of American schools are very good at teaching you how to talk about your skills. That's an important skill. Okay, and then I did an internship at the Ministry of Health, during which I founded English to Doctors initiative, which last year we actually registered as a nonprofit in Ukraine, or громадська організація. And I think a lot of project management skills that I needed to do this initiative and eventually nonprofit came from my undergrad, and obviously I continued to build on it. And then now I'm pursuing a PhD in neuroscience, and a lot of those skills that I learned in undergrad are still important, which include a lot of research skills, communication skills, project management, budget. I don't know what job or thing you could pursue that doesn't require budget or some kind of finance management. But yeah, it's good if you have a chance to start learning that as an undergrad. Okay, and one thing that I wanted to touch upon before we finish and we go to questions is when you go to the United States, or whatever country you end up going throughout your career, you represent Ukraine and you are an ambassador of Ukraine. And I strongly urge you to take opportunities as much as possible to talk about Ukraine. I think for me it was when I first moved to the US, the war hasn't happened yet, right? Because it was like 2013, so it was like right before Maidan happened. It was so fun to talk about Ukraine because I could like talk about culture and food that we had and so on. And then eventually that conversation got harder and harder, with the war and then with the full-scale invasion. Well, I was in Ukraine during that, but then obviously I moved. And it's still an amazing opportunity for us to advocate or just to share with people a little bit of our culture and that we're humans and and that we're not that different from them. And I think generally diversity is, people in the United States are very curious about diversity and they will be very inquisitive about your background and your culture. So please take those opportunities to talk about Ukraine, both from a culture's perspective or whatever else perspective you're willing to talk about. But it's always a good chance to advocate, to again show them that, show them our very rich culture and traditions. Yeah, I think that was one of the things that I always try to kind of remember throughout me living abroad for a extended period of times, is the fact that I try to do everything with Ukraine at heart and try to remind people about Ukraine. And because you'll be asked, you'll look at, oh, can you give a presentation on that? Or like, can you come in and talk about Ukraine or your traditions? Or yeah, and I'm like, yep, I have my slides ready. So yep. And then I think that's it for my presentation. Again, my contact information is here. You can find me on Instagram. You can email me, and then you can iMessage me or WhatsApp me, whatever works best for you.
Tanya, thank you for such an amazing presentation. It is absolutely insightful and inspiring. We are really grateful for you, and thank you for sharing your contacts, actually, because I know that today we kind of have some problems with our chat and maybe not everyone can access it to write down their questions. So guys, I encourage you, if you have any of them, please reach out to Tanya and get your answers. Yeah, and thank you for those amazing photos you put in the presentations. They are so nice. Thank you, really. Tanya, you have mentioned that the unique story really matters, yeah? And we know that when you apply for US institutions, you have to write kind of like your essay, yeah, and communicate your story. If it is not a secret, what was your unique story?
Oh, I'm trying to remember now. It's been a very long time ago when I applied. What did I share? I think I talked a lot about, because at the time I didn't know about research at all as like a high school student. So that's not something that I considered, and I'm not gonna be like, oh yeah, I wrote about how I wanted to be a researcher. But I knew that I wanted to help people. I knew I wanted to do sciences. So one of the things that I wrote about is my love for science, and how I wanted to go to med school at the time. So I wrote about that and how that's important to me, because I want to use basically my skills to do that. And I don't remember the other details, but I think that's for the most part what I wrote about. And then I can also share kind of what was my story when I applied to University of British Columbia, which is also a North American school, not an American, but there I think I had a bit of obviously more of a clear vision there. And I did write about making it very specific. So I knew I wanted to do research in Alzheimer's disease. I knew what a professor wanted to talk about, to work with. So I talk about why researching Alzheimer's disease and why helping Alzheimer's disease patients was important to me, and how I'm going to do that through translational work. And translational research is just a research that combines preclinical methods and clinical methods. So working with like animal models or cell cultures and humans at the same time. Yeah, and so yeah, like I guess the formula is what you're interested about, what drives you, and then how you're going to use that in the future to do something impactful. It doesn't have to be help people. It could be doing other things, but how can you do something impactful?
Okay, thank you for your answer. Got it. And actually, when I was listening to your presentation and your story, everything sounds, kind of like very optimistic, very easy, full of bright colors. But I'm sure that there
Yes.
were some obstacles you faced and some challenges you had to cope with. Can you share what they were and how did you manage to cope with them?
Okay, yeah, that's a great question. And thank you so much for asking it. I guess I was so excited to give this presentation that I didn't even remember all the obstacles but now that you're pointing it out, I think talking about that is as important as talking about the positive things. Starting before I even joined Randolph College, I got quite a few rejections. And for me as an A student, where I used to get everything that I applied for, both in Ukraine and then in like high school in the US and obviously Flex. So I didn't know what rejection was. So I didn't know that, it would feel the way it felt, right? It feels very unpleasant. And I actually got rejected to quite a few schools. Yeah, and that was devastating for me. But later on, I continued to get rejected, right? I applied for masters. I didn't apply for one master program. Obviously, I applied for a few. And I got rejected for some of them. When I was applying for PhDs, I sent some emails that, even before I applied to school, I sent some emails to professors that never got answered, right? So I was like, well, are my skills not good enough to even get a reply? And I think getting used to rejection as early as possible in your life and not taking it personally is a very good skill, and it will help you to preserve your mental health. Because rejections are completely normal. It doesn't, again, do not take it personally. It doesn't mean that you're a bad student or you don't have potential. Just know that, you might have not. It's a lot of luck, right? So the person that looked at might have seen another publication that talked to them more, right? I mean, it's humans that at the end of the day look at your applications, right? It's people, and everything is very subjective. Maybe you're not right fit for the program, and maybe it's good that they didn't accept you because they knew that you're not going to be, do your best there. You would do better in another institution. So that was challenge number one, is getting used to the rejection, not taking it personal. During my time at Randolph, there were, of course, challenges. I think there's still some, I think my advantage was that I was already in the US for almost a year as a flex student. But even then, when I came to Randolph College, there was still some culture shock, right? I still continued to learn about a different culture. And there's some things that will never click in your head. Like mentality is just different, and you will never really truly understand it, just because you come from a different place, and that's completely fine. I also had a lot of imposter syndrome, and I think that comes partly because as we often been taught in, unfortunately, because of the centuries of Ukraine being a colony, we kind of been taught through generation that we are less than other people. And I think I still had that thought when I moved to the US. Like, I was so hesitant to apply to be a class president. And as a first year, and if my friends didn't encourage me back then, I would never apply, because I was like, nobody's gonna wait for this international students. Not gonna vote for this international students that they don't know, but they voted for me, right? So don't have that, or get rid of that mentality of being less as soon as possible. Again, it's generational, and I hope that it's better nowadays, in this younger generation. But yeah, and know that you have so much potential and you have so much to offer, and your story is so unique and your experience is unique. Like, people should be asking you questions, and should be lucky to have you there. Any college should be lucky to have you there.
Oh, it's such a big motivation. Thank you for saying this. I think that our students can be really get inspired by everything you have already said. So, Tanya, we really appreciate you being here with us today. Thank you for your presentation. And yeah, it was really inspiring. Again, guys, we encourage you to reach out to Tanya if you have any questions. Sorry that we have some technical problems today. It happens sometimes. We promise that we are going to fix it for the next time. So yeah, be with Education USA, be with us, and we are really happy to help you with your educational journey to United States. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening. Thank you, Tanya. Bye.
Thank you for having me. Bye bye.